All right. Dear Mr. Stew, my teenager has ADHD and told me his friends are encouraging him to try marijuana to relax and chill out. I'm against this, but when I tried to explain why, he said I didn't understand. I know marijuana causes the munchies, and I'm guessing it impacts the brain too. How can I explain to him why marijuana is especially concerning for someone with ADHD? Wow. You said that your child was not receptive to the answer that you gave. I'm not sure the answer that you gave, but let me give you my answer. Marijuana and really also addictions, like any type of addictions, are very common and very prevalent in individuals who have ADHD. Let me try to explain it just a bit. ADHD, people think of it as this focus and attention problem. It is not a focus or attention problem. That is the symptom. The problem is in the brain of someone with ADHD, their brain does not give this reward chemical. The chemical is called dopamine. And dopamine helps us feel good about things. Now, for people who do not have ADHD, what that means is as they are, for instance, working on a worksheet of math problems, as they're working, their brain kind of gives them some of this reward chemical for every answer that they write down. As they're working through the worksheet, their brain is giving this reward chemical saying, good job, you are making it through, you are getting to the end, you're doing this, yeah, great, good job, great work. For a person with ADHD, their brain does not give that same level of dopamine. Their dopamine level is depleted. So their brain is not constantly encouraging them and not constantly rewarding them for the work that they're doing. That is what makes it so hard to focus. It's not focus in and of itself. It is that as they are focusing, they are not being rewarded for it as much as someone who is more neurotypical or who has that typical level of dopamine response. It is the same for focusing, for paying attention, for reading. Reading, as someone is reading, for someone who's more neurotypical, as they're reading, their brain is saying, ooh, this is a good story, good job. Oh, another word, another line. Yes, you are doing a great job of reading that. People with ADHD, their brains don't work that way. Theirs has to feel like it finished a task, like they finished something. They finished a chapter, and then the person with ADHD might look and say, oh, this chapter is 10 pages long. That is a lot of work for just a little bit of reward. I'm just going to go over here to the TV or to the phone where reward is just bing, 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 more and more and more and more and more. The reason that matters is because marijuana is a dopamine accelerant. That means that it floods the brain with dopamine. As someone smokes marijuana, their brain is being flooded with that dopamine. That is actually why at least used to be all of the perception of individuals who use marijuana are being shifted. So let me say that what I'm about to tell you is an old perspective of people who smoke. Now it is very well understood that there's a lot of people who smoke marijuana on a very regular basis and are still able to live successful lives. I'm not going to get into perspectives on that or anything like that. That's for another day, another time. But here you can know what happens and why the perception used to be that people would just smoke marijuana and then just sit on their couch and not want to do anything is because as the brain is flooded with that dopamine, with that reward, with that pleasure chemical, it says, well, we don't need to do anything. I've got all the reward I need right here. So the person would smoke, and then they could just kind of crash out on the couch and still feel okay about themselves because their brain was already getting flooded with that reward and that pleasure chemical. They didn't need to go seek it by achieving anything. They could just sit and relax. You mentioned the munchies. Let me tell you where the munchies comes from. Munchies come from as the brain's dopamine level starts to come down, it says, ooh, I don't like that this is coming down. I want it to go back up. Well, junk food also floods the brain with dopamine. It's also why people with depression will seek out junk foods because their dopamine level is coming down and they want to boost it back up. So as that level is coming down, the brain's like, let's go find the saltiest, greasiest, grossest, worst thing for me. And then the dopamine level will go back up. It's that crush of dopamine that makes someone want to go find some gross but amazing snack food with the munchies. The reason that can become a problem, especially for individuals with ADHD, is because then they will become dependent on that substance to be the dopamine for them. And then when their brain is not feeling that heightened level of dopamine, they can feel a crash where it becomes even harder for them to focus and even harder for them to work hard, because it's like, you know what? I don't need to do any of this. At the end of the day, I'm going to get to go smoke and my brain's going to get all it needs anyway. So that is the real trouble and the real problem that can happen when someone with ADHD also uses substances like marijuana and is self-medicating. And a lot of times they don't even know it. They just think, I just feel so fidgety and I feel like I'm being run by a motor. I just need to chill out. Well, there are some other ways to do that. Physical exercise is a great way to still get that burst of dopamine, wear out some of that energy, and still be able to sleep at night. It's harder, and it doesn't just happen instantly. It's got to be a consistent thing. And in today's world, we want these instant quick fixes, and marijuana to someone with ADHD looks like the instant awesome quick fix. But over time, it will actually make life without marijuana even more difficult. And really, no one wants to be dependent on something. There's all this research and discussion about whether someone can be addicted to marijuana or addicted to cannabis. The research is out on that. Like, there's some research that says yes, they can. There's some research that says no, they cannot. There's definitive answers in both directions. But what I would say is that people can become dependent on it, where they rely on it to give them this feeling that they feel like they need. And really, no one wants to be tethered to something and dependent on something to give them a feeling that they could get through other means, just it might be a little more difficult. So what you can do is maybe show them this video and have a discussion about what marijuana is doing in the brain and where that dopamine rush comes from and what that dopamine rush can do. Then you can discuss what are some fun, rewarding, pleasurable things that you like to do, and let's see if we can find more ways to do those things. That way your brain can get the dopamine that it needs without us relying on and becoming dependent on a substance. Another thing you can do as a parent is be your child's dopamine. So as they're working on the homework, just know their brain is not giving them that flood of dopamine. You can rush in and you can be like, oh, wow, you got another one done. Good job. Oh my goodness. Look at you working so hard. I see you read another page. Wow, good job. Woohoo. And as you cheer them on, that will become their brain's dopamine, because you are offering it to them manually. You are doing manually for them what their brain isn't able to do automatically. And then over time, their brain can learn to do it more and more automatically. If you rely on marijuana, the brain does not learn to do it more and more automatically. As a matter of fact, it starts to do it less and less automatically, because it says, well, we've got the big rush of dopamine coming a little bit later anyway. Hopefully that was helpful, understanding the connection between ADHD and dopamine, and also a little bit of an aside about munchies. If you found this content helpful, exciting, informative, make sure to like this video and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all of the mental health fun.